Sorry about that. We'll call it a security delay. We had to make sure everything was in order before we could leave. So my name is Russ. You're going to be tired of my voice for the next couple hours. We've got Jason here who's going to be the better guy to listen to when he talks in a little bit about what he does. He doesn't just drive the bus. He's really responsible for making this airport work properly. And then we've got Samantha here who's keeping an eye on all of us, making sure we're not breaking any rules, okay? So you've got the vests on. That makes you able to get onto the airfield. If we step off the bus, which of course we'll be doing, you'll have to follow the rules to make sure you don't get injured, so that I don't have to fill in any paperwork. I don't like paperwork, except for that paperwork. And so, as I mentioned a moment ago, we have a security check that we will go through. It's not right away, but it'll be shortly, and it'll be the whole scarecrow thing. Standing there, you're lifting up your legs, so they check under your shoes. I have no idea why they check under your shoes. And then they will swab your hands, and that's in case you've been playing with explosives. So, you know, we have trouble right after July 1st because everybody plays with fireworks the night before. So, anyway. So this first check here should be very quick. It depends who's on duty. There are 900 security guards here working at the airport, so they all have their basic rules to follow, but some do it in a different manner than others. Now, I'm part of a team, along with Jason, of 1,500 people who work in that building, and this building over here on our right, and over in the terminals, and we're the airport authority. We do have trouble trying to accommodate everybody, so we ask if you've been on one this year not to come again. Not that we don't like to see you, but. So here we are, we're on the field. On your left-hand side is the airfield. Behind us is one of those 3 fire stations I mentioned. They're pretty busy, so we're not going to go visit the fire station tonight. They responded 5,200 times last year. Now those 3 halls are responsible for all sorts of calls in the terminals, out on the airfield. I don't want you to be scared to fly. I don't mean that there's always something going wrong, but if a pilot gets a red light, he's going to call, basically. I got a problem, I don't know what's going on with it, I want the truck standing by. And then there's tons of medicals. We get about 150,000 people a day in August this year that'll be passing through the terminal as passengers. Last year we were 120,000. It's one of those radar rooms with big screens, and they don't look out the windows, they're just looking at the dots on the screen. And somebody in there is planning the traffic. They're looking at what planes are heading towards Toronto right now. And then saying, well, we're going to have a bunch at 8:10 this evening. We're going to get a whole bunch in our area, and we can't handle the capacity because we're down to the 2 runways instead of the 3. And so they'll put stops on in Montreal and Ottawa and start holding aircraft on the ground there, so that way they can make space for it, okay? Now, all of that gets much more complicated when Jason's out there on the runway with his snowplow. So what we're gonna do is go think of the snow right now. He'll take us over and show us that, because I know that's what's on your mind. Nobody's thinking cottage in summer and enjoying the weather. You're all wondering when that wonderful snowstorm's gonna come and ruin your trip to Florida or something, right? So how many of you have flown out of here? All right, and how many of you fly regularly somewhere, whether it's here or other airports? You fly regularly for business or something? Or just because you like to spend money? Pleasure, nice.
No, my wife likes to spend money.
Ah, okay. And you escape by getting on a plane and going somewhere, good. I think you see the biggest airplane over there with the funny colors on the tail. So that's the Airbus A380. It's the largest passenger airliner around, and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we get it here at Pearson. It's sitting away from the terminal building purely because once it's arrived, offloaded the passengers and the baggage, we don't want it on the terminal building because we can use those gates. It's nice and cool in here.
Oh yeah.
It's the last chance for coolness you have.
Yeah. So this is the Airfield Maintenance Facility for AMF. This is where I work out of. I'm one of, I guess, 100 people that work year-round, and we have about another 100 seasonal staff that come and help from October to April for the winter months. What you're looking at here is the VOMIS. These are, we have about, I don't even know how many pieces, probably just over 12 pieces of equipment. They're $1.3 million each. So these things are what clear the runway, and it takes us about 17 minutes to clear a runway. Which is pretty good, so that way planes can come in and land and we're not taking up too much time. How they work is Well, we don't have plows hooked up, they're all outside, but we have their 30-foot plows. And then we swing out our brooms, and the brooms are about 22 feet. And at the very end, there's the black. Those things come down, they're blowers, and it clears the residue. So there would be a lead who would speak to Tower, and Tower would tell him a time when to come out to the runway. So if Tower says 1600, you got 24 left axis road, then that means him and his team have to go out there, and he's gonna call up at that time, and he'll say, plow 157 plus 12, you're to clear the runway.
Gives you an idea. If you use those on your driveway at home, you probably won't have a driveway left, okay? But it would clear it really fast. All right, so the control tower off in the far distance there, Nav Canada's facility, the tower controller says clear takeoff, clear land. But to get to the runway, the pilot has to move through the taxiway system. And so we're talking to someone else called ground control. And that person is essentially just moving the vehicles and aircraft around on the airfield except for on the runways. And one other exception. When they get close to the terminal building where all the aircraft are parked, they're now on the aprons. And so when they're moving on or off of the apron, they are then talking to the tower on top of the terminal building here, which is called the apron control tower. So that's 3 different controllers that they would talk to. So the one that's touching down right now, coming in on 06 right by the looks of it, he's that pilot, he or she is talking to the tower. In a few minutes, they'll get off the runway, they'll talk to ground control, they'll make their way towards the runway, to the gate, and talk to the apron controller. And then when it departs again in a couple of hours, the reverse process. Now there's a whole bunch of other people involved in this too. I mentioned that room with the radar screen, the Nav Canada facility. Well, that plane that just took off is no longer talking to the tower. He's now talking to someone called departure control. Departure's going to climb that aircraft up to 7,000 or 10,000 feet and then hand it off to another person in that room who's going to get the plane on its way to Montreal or wherever it's going. And so that'll be another air traffic controller called the en route controller. And so it's constantly changing. They all have their areas of responsibility, different altitudes, different zones.
Hold the toilet. And then you can tell all the spotters.
You can tell all the spotters.
Spotters are.
We worry about kind of bird.
Sorry.
Hey, look, the guys on the road.
We are. It's not.
In training, so I'm basically just getting accustomed to the airfield and everything else. So basically what we do here on the airfield is use birds of prey to disperse other birds that are actually on the airfield. So it's doing a good means of bird control since we're using a natural bird of prey. We also use dogs. As you can see, I have a chocolate lab that I also use for chasing and retrieving as well. So we also have, other means to do wildlife control on the airport property. We have 8,400 hectares of land, so it's a lot of land to take care of. So that's why we have basically about 32 birds in our disposal, plus 2 working dogs as well. So.
Is that fully grown yet, or?
Pardon me?
Is it fully?
It is fully grown, yes.
Fully grown.
Yeah. That's as big as American Kestrels get.
The first class, so I could use the shower with a special someone, except you're not supposed to do that, right? But whatever. But if I only had $6,500, I could fly in business class. And both of us would be up in the upper deck, business class and first class, and we'd use the bar at the back of the plane. But the rest of us, we're all downstairs, right? We're paying the $1,800 round trip to Dubai, and we're getting decent service, nice in-flight entertainment, and then you get this big airplane that'll get you there safely. Emirates is getting rid of the first class. On the newer versions of this aircraft, they're only going to have economy and business class, so they're going to have 615 passengers on board. When the aircraft was designed for all economy passengers, it was going to be 850. But when we see it here, it's just about 500, and as I said, the 34 crew. So think of the investment of the airline. CFC engines previously. But those are disappearing gradually. Delta's really the only operator of them now, except for one airline in Europe. So you've gone from that huge, largest passenger airliner out there, the Airbus A380, to the very common Boeing 717, which used to be a DC-9, to the tiniest passenger airliner that flies in here on a regular basis, which is just coming up on our right in a moment. You'll see on our left. Sorry, it hasn't gone onto the gate yet. It's called the Beechcraft 1900. Seats 19 passengers. All these people are just arriving from somewhere exciting into Toronto. They've just come to say Rochester or Syracuse. So why would you spend $900 one way from Rochester to Syracuse? You wouldn't, right? But all they need is 2 passengers on board. They need money. But then again, the reason they exist, Air Georgian flies these for Air Canada. They get the contract. The goal is to get people from Rochester and Syracuse to fly on these planes to Toronto and connect up to around the world. So this way Air Canada carries a lot of US passengers into Toronto. We're trying to get our numbers to 40% connections. If we can get all this traffic coming through Toronto, that creates more jobs for people in Toronto and the GTA. We presently have, as I said before, about 50,000 people working at the airport. Air Canada is the largest employer with probably 11,000. One of these Boeing 777s that you saw take off, when they fly it to Frankfurt every day, they fly 2 a day to Frankfurt. If they were to cancel one of those flights on a year-round basis, they'd lay off 2,000 people. Yeah, it's a lot of impact. Now this is a Boeing 767. This is in the rouge colors, so they painted it all up nice, and they've got new uniforms and cool hats and stuff, and essentially 270 passengers. Now when it used to carry the Air Canada colors, without the winglets on it, to give it the fuel efficiency, it would have 214 passengers. The plane hasn't grown, just they found ways to put people in the luggage racks and stuff, so. All right, so we're gonna do something a little different here. I'm gonna need your help on it. I'm gonna ask you when we get off the bus here not to bring your cameras with you, okay? Because we're gonna show you something you don't normally get to see. But I thought you've been nice people. You promised to stay nice people. You don't run away on us. We're just gonna leave the bus here. I'm gonna take you inside to see exactly what happens to your life. Photos of airplanes. So we're gonna just keep going. Now, statistics for you. I talked about the number of passengers every day. I didn't mention, but about 1,400 aircraft movements a day here. And all of them are controlled either from the apron or the Nav Canada tower. The majority of those movements are on the aprons, so passenger airliners. We do have, of course, FBOs, fixed base operators, Jet Airways taking off straight in front of you there. Big Boeing 777 on its way to India, but stopping in Amsterdam first. So the Air Canada plane that's being towed over is not under power. It's got a tractor attached, pulled up the front wheel, and it's towing it to the gate. So it's come from somewhere else on the field, and they're bringing it probably over here to a position to get ready for something to push back. And as soon as that gate's vacated, they'll tow it in. So our apron people have coordinated that so that it's not in the way, but it's ready to go straight on the gate. Because it's probably leaving in another hour and a half, and they want to get it serviced. So anyways, back to that 777 that you just saw take off. Here's one here on either side of you. Those engines are worth $25 million each. Air Canada's largest aircraft. These are them, and they seat 458 passengers. When they bought them, they had 380 seats, and again, they found space in the overhead racks. So they've gotten quite proliferous at filling their planes up. They're doing very well. Air Canada is a very well-respected airline. The Americans love flying through here. They find it quite easy to do. So the thing with I talked about the winglets on the Boeing 767. It helps save fuel on older aircraft and older engines. The Boeing 777 is a newer aircraft, so the engines are so powerful and good that they don't need to worry about having something on the wings. They've redesigned the wing to have a special shape on it so that it makes it more efficient. So that's what this whole fleet right now, we've just seen a whole bunch of 777s. When you see the 787, it's really, there's one around the corner. If we make the right turn here, there's a Dreamliner right around the corner, the Boeing 787. It's a baby Dreamliner. And No, it's not. It's the stretch version. I'm sorry. It's the Dash 9 version.
Not, thanks.
So look at the shape of the wings. That's what I was getting at here. You can see they're called raked wingtips, and they really look at the two different types of wings here. The Boeing 777 in Turkish colors. See the shape of that? And then also the engine is much different. This is much quieter. So the passengers love this. It's a quiet plane. The crew love this because the pressurization on board is different. So a normal aircraft, when you're flying at 40,000 feet, you're pressurized to about 8,000 feet. And most passengers, that's not an issue. But crew members flying back and forth across the Atlantic regularly find that it dries their skin out. But with this, you're at 6,000 feet altitude. So it's a much more comfortable environment as a passenger and as a crew member. Now, as I mentioned, we're responsible for the airport. We run the airport. We provide the facilities. What you see on the bridges, these hoses attached to the aircraft, they provide air conditioning. The cables provide power. We're responsible for the bridge. The airline uses it to hook up to their aircraft. They break it, they fix it. No, they break it, we fix it. They break their airplane, they fix it. So that's why we don't everything from the aircraft downward is up to the airlines. So the ground handling staff that would provide the catering, the fueling is pumped from underground through pipes on the far side of the field. So you're seeing the trucks, here's a fuel truck here pumping into the wings. The baggage is handled by the airline through the system that we provide. And this is a lot different than the old days when we used to have, do you remember I told you about Ward Air? Some of the people might remember. There was an old terminal building called Terminal 1. 1964 we opened it. It sat right here, the black spot on the apron around us. This is where Terminal 1 sat, and we built around it. So the Turkish is being towed away. It'll be parked near the Emirates plane, and then it'll come back because it doesn't depart till 11:30 tonight. So they'll probably bring it back around 10 o'clock. Air Canada's got a couple planes in the new colors here. I'm quite liking these now, actually. I did at first. I was like, yeah, okay, but the little raccoon eyes on the cockpit, that really looks good. But up in the tower, we jokingly call it Delta Light because it sort of looks like Delta Airlines from a distance. I'm sure Air Canada doesn't like to hear that, but anyways. Now we've also built the terminals in a way, both terminals 1 and 3, in a way that we can move planes around without, or move people around without having to move the planes. So all those gates behind us are international. Everybody arriving on one of those flights has to go to customs. Now with this pier, everybody arriving here is domestic. They can walk straight out to the baggage hall or they can leave the building. Except a few gates in between that we can open and close the door, and that leads people to customs. Now if they're departing, this is all domestic. You've cleared security, you get on the plane, you fly to Vancouver or Sudbury. But behind us, those gates, we can walk through to U.S. Customs and get on a flight going to the U.S. And if we close some other doors, you're separated again, you're leaving Canada. So the Canada Customs dogs can sniff you out if you're carrying more than $10,000 in cash. You have to declare that, you know that if you're, I don't know, I've never carried that much. If I had that, I'd be flying first class in Emirates to Dubai. But anyway, so yeah, we have to be able to segregate the people, and so the airlines like it that they can do what's called a swing gate, so they don't have to keep moving their airplanes around. They can say, this one's coming in from Frankfurt and going to go out to Miami, so we want to be able to make that aircraft stay where it is and simply move the passengers around. So now we're over at Terminal 3, and what do we got? Air Transat. I didn't see what was around the corner. You guys probably can tell me.
China Southern.
You saw China Southern? Okay.
China Southern?
So that's
China Southern.
going to Shanghai. China Southern to Shanghai. Guangzhou? Sorry, okay. China Eastern's to Shanghai.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Air Transat's a couple of Airbus 330s here, and here's China Southern. I think you said that was around the corner. China Southern is going to Guangzhou.
Alitalia right beside.
Yes. Alitalia, and next to that, Azores Airlines. They're flying up to...
Well, the Delgado, I think, right? Or is that...
Oh, get a shot of those three tails. That's amazing.
Here's my plane.
All right, so it's a busy international evening. A lot of the stuff has already left, and then some of the transats. If you look over to your left, there's a whole bunch of Air Transats parked there, a couple of Sunwing or a Sunwing and a WestJet. Those will all be towed over later on to depart on later flights, because the way we make money is that landing fee,
There's my
all that
laptop there.
fees that the airlines are paying for their office space, and
Good traffic jam behind us.
every time they're parked on the terminal, they're loading passengers.
I know.
They make money with that. But if they're sitting empty on a gate, filling up space, then we can't bring more airplanes in.
Welcome to Menzies.
Hey, Curtis.
Where's
Yeah.
Curtis?
He's not working right
Oh,
now.
he's not working right now?
Now we're in the transborder section of Terminal 3. We've got that Delta
All the American
717
stuff.
we saw. There's a white aircraft there. Can't see from the registration yet.
Caribbean.
It's
Caribbean.
Caribbean Airlines. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's actually on a U.S. gate. But all it needs is to go into customs. The flight comes in from Kingston, Jamaica, or Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Yeah, man.
And they just need to offload the plane. So we park it there because we didn't have a gate available, and then they'll tow it over to this area over here, and then later tonight, it probably goes out at midnight somewhere back down to Port of Spain. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn left here. You get past WestJet's largest aircraft, the Boeing 767, or as soon as he goes out to the ground or the tower, to the runways, he has to call the tower. So he's got an enhanced version. That way he can go anywhere. So we've got a real mix of aircraft in tonight. This one, as I said, it's probably going to sit there and depart at 9 o'clock to London. Air Transat's got one of the newer Boeing 737s. See the shape of the wings there, the winglets. These are called split scimitar winglets. They're quite interesting shape. Don't really know why they're better than other ones, but some of the airlines really love these things. WestJet's got them on theirs. Then you've got the older version of the winglets. When WestJet bought these Boeing 737-700s, they actually came with those winglets on, whereas a lot of the other aircraft had them attached afterwards. They're something like $70,000 a pair, so it has to be worthwhile. Azores International, or Azores Airlines, going back to either Lisbon or one of the islands in the Azores. Personally, I think that's the ugliest color scheme I've ever seen, but that's just me. I don't like the idea of this big giant whale or whatever on the side of my airplane. If I like whale, I'm going to look at Emirates from the front. That's what it is. Now, Alitalia's got their new color scheme on this Airbus here.
Yeah.
And then China Southern, also not my favorite color scheme, but all the pilots have to be able to speak English when they're taxiing around the airfields in Canada. That's the requirement. So they have, China Southern would have to test their pilots to make sure they meet the international standards.
Chinese are the best color. Come on.
Chinese
Chinese have the best color.
You're being sarcastic. Yes, okay. China Eastern is an all-white airplane with a red and blue bird on the
I can
tail.
take a
It's
picture.
very, very boring.
The finger doesn't go in the shutter.
This is less boring, but just, no, doesn't work.
I apologize in
Get
advance.
me
to all the
KLM
Southern
anytime.
fans out
That's
there.
my favorite looking airplane. There you go. All right. So what's happening here? This Boeing 767, as I said, the rouge colors, it's 270 passengers. This is 214. The people at the front are really enjoying the very nice seats there. This is on its way to probably Vancouver. See, there's a second push also happening. There are two taxi lanes here with the yellow lines. The pilots follow the taxi lanes. The apron tower behind us, or to our right, has cleared both of these aircraft to push, one on taxi lane 5, one on lane 6. 5 and 6, right?
Halifax.
5 and 6?
Halifax.
Oh, you've got it on the radar app? Okay. That's you know more than I do. Sorry. So, anyways, these two aircraft have been
spotters.
given their permission to push
we're nerds.
to a certain point. If you look at the front of the aircraft, there's a gentleman standing in front of each aircraft. And they're basically signaling to the pilot not to move. Now, the reason the pilot would want to move is because he wants to get going, but he doesn't know if he's clear. He can't see that there's somebody still below working. He's sort of got a pretty good idea, but it's a safety device, right? You basically, until this guy tells you to go, you don't go. Now, when he gives you the signal, the pilot will actually radio up back up to the apron and say, Air Canada 626 is ready to taxi. And they'll say, okay, give way to the little Embraer to your left, it's ahead of you, or whatever order they're coming in. And then they'll probably just have their exit this point out here by the grass and contact the NAV Canada ground control. Bombardier Dash 8 Q400 behind it. They're all lined up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aircraft all waiting to exit, and then WestJet will be allowed in. Now, in the meantime, some of you like taking photos, so if you promise to step right next to the bus, We can let you off here to take photos of the Iceland Air Boeing 757. Apron, and they're busy marshalling the aircraft in. So, for those who don't know the industry, you see people on both sides of the aircraft here. They're called wing walkers. They're to stop vehicles from getting in the way, and so they can put their arms out, signaling that. If you look to the front here, you'll see somebody who's going to marshal the aircraft in, wanding the pilot in, and then he'll point to the electronic system and say, "Go ahead and look up here." Disappearing these planes. This is my favorite aircraft. It's all the Lufthansa one. They only get Lufthansa KLM in here usually. A few cargo companies come in with the 147.
Wow.
What you see is getting all these staff around here are working for the ground handlers and KLM and pilots.
Look at that, man. Live engine right in front of you, eh? Holy crap.
The check-in staff. The agents will be boarding the flight and all that. And all the other services are contracted out. First thing you're going to see then is someone, once the aircraft stops, someone's going to run and put rocks behind the wheel. CATSA. That's going to stop the aircraft from rolling. Someone on the other side of the aircraft is attaching the bridge. In a few minutes, you're going to start seeing vehicles coming to position to start doing the luggage and catering and the lab truck and all of our other tenants. I mean, if we got 4 flights a day to Iceland, you know, I'm sure Air Canada would have said, no, don't let Iceland Air come in here. We'll fly all those flights. Well, that's not the way our job operates. Now, in the meantime, the Canadian government also gets involved in something called a bilateral agreement with each country. So what happens is, but it's actually through Emirates Airline. Emirates Airline gets Jennifer Aniston standing in a bathrobe and everybody wants to go to Dubai, right? And in the end, as I said, that's one of those people who pay the $10,000 each to get to sit with Jennifer. You don't get to shower with her either. So, but you know, it's all part of the game, right?
Wow.
It's marketing. So Emirates does a really good job of marketing themselves. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see Etihad try to bring in the A380 3 times a week as well, because that'll max out their capacity. But Emirates does a
that's
better
what
job.
we need.
That's a
What are we
good one.
seeing?
Can't wait.
That's a good one.
What are we seeing?
A330, 76.
777.
So you see the 777 taxiing out.
76.
Sorry, is this supposed to be exciting?
Yes.
I'm expecting you guys to get more excited or something. Okay.
Beautiful. Etihad A380, it's exciting.
That's exactly.
Etihad A380, it's exciting.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Sweet. Lufty A350 will be
All right.
exciting.
So I haven't even talked about some of the other things at the airport here.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get to it because we were so busy talking about airplanes. So this is a city unto itself, as I said, 50,000 employees, 150,000 passengers a day, 5,200 fire responses a year.
Holy moly, no way.
The Emirates is being towed over to the gate now, so it'll go around behind, it'll pass beside us. So the 777's rolling on the runway in the meantime. This is going to be a great shot if we stop right wherever you can stop. Right here. We can't open the doors because we got to be ready to go. You're going to be able to get the 2 planes right, and there's a 777 in behind as well, actually. One just landed, one taken off, A380. Okay, so here's the plane coming towards us.
Comes the big bird.
That one little tractor is towing it away. Now, do you want a story about that? Okay, so think how expensive this is, right? This airplane's getting ready to go off to Dubai now. There's 497 passengers checked in, sitting in the lounge. Some of them are in the VIP lounge having nice free wine.
Caviar.
And others, caviar, whatever. They're going to get that all on the plane anyways. And others are sitting buying wine in our shops, our restaurants, buying duty free. All sorts of stuff going on. Thank you very much to Jason for everything he taught us. Any last questions as we head back?
Thank you, Russell.
My
Like
pleasure,
always.
my pleasure.
Thank you, Russell.
As always.
We'll get you back in a couple of minutes. Are there any last questions? All right, what I'm going to do is if you can take those vests off, I'll put them in the box here.
Another great airside tour ends. Fantastic.